On the night of September 8, 2017, hotel surveillance cameras at the Crowne Plaza near O'Hare Airport in Rosemont, Illinois, captured something that would later be watched by millions of people. A 19-year-old girl alone, severely intoxicated, staggering through the hallways in the early hours of the morning, bumping into walls, struggling with a stair railing, drifting near the front desk before eventually wandering into an empty first-floor kitchen area. She rounds a corner toward a walk-in freezer at the back. After that, she's never seen on camera again. Her name was Kenneka Jenkins, and it would be nearly 21 hours before anyone found her. Earlier that night, Kenneka had left her home on Chicago's west side with a group of friends, telling her mom they were going bowling or catching a movie to celebrate a new job. Instead, they headed to a birthday party at that same hotel. She arrived just after 1 in the morning and went up to the 9th floor. Around 1:30, she texted her sister. That was the last direct contact anyone had with her. By around 3 in the morning, her friends were getting ready to leave when Kenneka noticed her phone and one of her shoes were missing. She waited by the elevator while her friends went back to search the room. When they returned 10 to 15 minutes later, she was gone. Around 4 in the morning, her friends called her mother from Kenneka's own car. They had her phone and her keys and said they couldn't find her and had already left. Her family rushed to the hotel. Unfortunately, the police response was slow, with the family being told to wait and see if she turned up. A missing persons report wasn't officially filed until nearly 1 in the afternoon. The family ended up searching the hotel themselves. It wasn't until just after midnight on September 10th, nearly 21 hours after she disappeared, that a hotel employee finally found Kenneka's body inside the walk-in freezer. She was face down, one shoe off, a small cut on her foot, no signs of major trauma. The hotel had been operational the entire time. Staff had walked past that kitchen. Nobody checked inside. The autopsy ruled her death accidental hypothermia. Her blood alcohol level was notably high for someone who wasn't a regular drinker, and she had a prescription medication in her system she hadn't been prescribed, one known to intensify the effects of alcohol and accelerate the onset of hypothermia. No illicit drugs were found. Police reviewed all available footage, interviewed dozens of witnesses, and found no evidence of foul play. The case was closed. That conclusion, however, did not sit well with a lot of people. The inconsistencies in her friends' accounts, the hotel missing her for nearly an entire day despite searches, the unsecured kitchen area, the fraudulent credit card used to book the party room, which was reportedly linked to a gang, all of it kept the case alive online long after police moved on. Rumors spread fast, including claims she had been sold and that voices could be heard in footage asking for help. Most were debunked, but the distrust had already taken hold. Kenneka's family sued the hotel and its security provider for $50 million, arguing negligence across the board. The case settled in 2023 for around $10 million. The freezer door could latch shut from the outside on its own, but it also had an internal handle that could be opened from inside. In the state Kenneka was in that night, whether she knew that or had the capacity to use it is something nobody can answer. In April 2016, police released interior surveillance footage from a church in Midlothian, Texas. The person on camera is dressed head to toe in black tactical gear, helmet, balaclava, dark clothing, gloves, and a vest with police printed across the front and back. The person in the video moves slowly through the hallways, smashing glass, prying open doors, checking rooms, just calm, deliberate movement through the building at nearly 4 in the morning. To this day, nobody knows who that person was, and what happened in that church a few hours later has never been solved. The victim was Missy Bevers, a 45-year-old fitness instructor and mother of 3. She'd been married to her husband Brandon since 1998 and had spent years holding boot camp classes at Creekside Church of Christ, which is exactly where she was headed that morning. The night before, she posted on Facebook that her early morning class would be moving indoors due to heavy storms. A routine announcement, but it told anyone who saw it exactly where she'd be and when. At around 3:50 a.m. on April 18th, while a thunderstorm was hitting Midlothian, someone broke into the church through a side door on the north end of the building. No alarm went off. Interior cameras picked the suspect up almost immediately, moving through the hallways for the next 30 minutes, carrying what appeared to be a hammer and a pry bar. At 4:18 a.m., Missy arrived, parked her truck outside, and walked in to set up for class. Police believe she came across the suspect inside and may have briefly spoken to this person before the attack. Shortly after 5, one of her students showed up and found her body. Missy had suffered multiple puncture wounds to the head and chest, injuries investigators believed were consistent with the tools seen in the footage. A hammer was recovered nearby. Nothing was stolen. Her wedding ring, purse, and iPad were all untouched. Her firearm was still in her truck outside. Investigators estimated the suspect's height somewhere between 5 feet 2 inches and 5 feet 7 inches. The walk was slow and slightly awkward, leaning against the walls at points, with a noticeable irregularity in the right leg. The FBI brought in a forensic podiatrist to analyze the gait, and even they couldn't confirm whether the suspect was male or female. The exterior cameras at the church weren't working that night, and the footage of the actual encounter between Missy and the suspect has never been released publicly. As the footage spread online, investigators started looking closer at the people around Missy. Search warrants revealed ongoing marital and financial struggles between Missy and Brandon. Investigators also recovered messages on her devices that were described as flirtatious and intimate, pointing to tensions in the marriage on both sides. In true crime communities, speculation quickly focused on people in her professional circle, fellow trainers, business associates, and those connected to them. However, none of it ever amounted to anything official. No arrests, no charges, nothing confirmed. What investigators did take seriously were the LinkedIn messages. In the weeks before her murder, Missy had been receiving messages from an unknown man that police described as creepy and strange. She had even shown one of them to a friend shortly before her death. Police tracked down the person behind the account, but ultimately described the exchanges as flirtatious rather than threatening. Another dead end. Everyone close to her was looked at. Nobody arrested. Nobody officially ruled out. The reward for information now stands at $150,000. Texas Rangers and federal agencies have been involved throughout. Police have maintained it's an active investigation, with new forensic technology still being applied. Nearly 10 years later, investigators still haven't identified the person in that footage. On February 13, 2013, police released a short clip of elevator security footage from the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. It was around 2.5 minutes long, and it spread across the internet almost immediately. In the footage, a 21-year-old woman is alone in the elevator pressing multiple buttons, peering out into the hallway repeatedly, stepping in and out, making strange gestures towards something off camera. The doors behaved oddly too, staying open far longer than they should. Nobody could agree on what they were seeing. Some thought she was hiding from someone. Others pointed to the door behavior as evidence the footage had been tampered with. Theories ranged from a psychotic episode to something paranormal. The woman in that footage was Alisa Lam, and by the time that video was released, she had already been missing for nearly 2 weeks. Alisa was a 21-year-old Canadian university student from Vancouver, traveling alone down the west coast. She arrived at the Cecil on January 26th and checked into a shared room on the 5th floor. Within days, her roommates complained about her behavior, leaving notes on the door telling people to go away, locking people out, requiring passwords to get back in. The hotel moved her to a private room. Her parents, who spoke to her every single day, reported her missing after she stopped calling and flew to Los Angeles to help with the search. Police went through the hotel with dogs, but her scent trail went cold near a window leading to the fire escape. The water tanks on the roof were never opened during that search. 6 days after the elevator footage went public, on February 19th, guests had been complaining about the water for days. Low pressure, strange color, and an odd taste. A maintenance worker was sent to check the 4 large tanks on the roof. He found one of the lids open, looked inside, and discovered Alisa's body floating face up in the water. The tank had to be drained and physically cut open just to get her out. Her clothes, her room key, and her watch were found at the bottom. What most people didn't know watching that elevator footage was that Alisa had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression. She was on multiple medications, yet her toxicology results suggested she hadn't been taking them consistently in the days before her death. She also had a history of episodes that included hallucinations and had been hospitalized at least once before. The autopsy ruled her death an accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder listed as a significant contributing factor. There was no evidence of trauma, no signs of a struggle, nothing pointing to foul play. Despite this, the case never really sat right with a lot of people online. Investigators believe she accessed the roof through the fire escape, bypassing the locked doors and alarms on the main access point, and that in her mental state she climbed into the tank herself and couldn't get back out. Alisa's parents filed a wrongful death suit against the hotel, arguing it failed to secure a hazard that posed an obvious risk. It was dismissed in 2015. The judge ruled her death was unforeseeable. On the morning of January 24, 2006, surveillance cameras at an apartment complex in Orlando, Florida captured an unidentified person parking a black Chevrolet Malibu, sitting in the car for around 30 seconds and then calmly walking away. The footage was grainy, snapping every 2 to 3 seconds, and every time the person's face came close to being visible, a fence post blocked it. The The individual appeared to be around 5 feet 3 inches to 5 feet 5 inches, wearing white clothing consistent with a painter or manual laborer. That car belonged to 24-year-old Jennifer Kesse, and Jennifer herself was nowhere to be found. Jennifer was a finance manager at a timeshare company in Orlando. She had recently moved into a condo at the Mosaic at Millennia Complex, which was still undergoing heavy construction at the time. Many units were unoccupied, security systems weren't fully in place, and gates were regularly left open for workers. Jennifer had mentioned more than once that the construction workers made her uncomfortable, catcalling her and other women in the complex on a regular basis. The night before she disappeared, she had just returned from a vacation in San Croix with her long-distance boyfriend and spoke with him on the phone around 10 in the evening. That was the last confirmed contact anyone had with her. The next morning, everything in her condo pointed to a normal routine. She had showered, gotten dressed, and left for work. However, she never arrived. By 11 in the morning, her employer had already called her parents, who drove in from Tampa and found the condo completely undisturbed. No forced entry, no signs of a struggle. The only things missing were Jennifer, her car, purse, phone, and the clothes she had been wearing. 2 days later, her car was found parked about a mile away at a different apartment complex, recognized by a resident who had seen it on the news. Investigators pulled the surveillance footage and found the unidentified person walking away from it. The car had been wiped down. A DVD player left inside hadn't been touched. A tracking dog followed a trail from the car back toward her complex, but it went cold before leading anywhere useful. Her phone has never been used again. No bank or credit activity since the morning she disappeared. The investigation hit obstacles almost immediately. One of the biggest challenges was the construction workers at her complex. Many were transient, a number were undocumented, and tracking them down proved extremely difficult. The person in the footage, wearing white clothing consistent with a laborer, remained the central focus. Despite enhancements by NASA and the FBI, the face was never identified. The theory that has always made the most sense to investigators and to Jennifer's family is that someone from that complex abducted her near her car that morning, with her own complaints about harassment in the months prior making that connection very hard to ignore. Her family never stopped pushing. They hired private investigators, sued for access to police files, and in 2019 received over 16,000 pages of case records. By 2025, the case was no longer being treated as cold, with investigators re-interviewing around 45 people, finding previously untested DNA evidence, and applying AI tools to the old surveillance footage and case files. Jennifer was legally declared dead in 2016. Her family has never accepted that. As of 2026, more than 20 years after she walked out of her condo on an ordinary Tuesday morning, she is still officially listed as missing and endangered.